shouldn't have listened.
Ghosts aren't what stay behind when we die. They're what we leave behind while we're still alive. Every glance that lingers too long, every word we swallow, every fear we lock in a room and never open again. When the lights go out, those pieces come looking for us. They know the sound of our breathing. They know which door we forgot to close. Tonight, you'll hear 5 of those doors opening. 5 voices that swore they were alone until something answered. I took a winter rental on the edge of Brainerd Lake. The bathroom had one of those frosted glass doors. First night, brushing my teeth, a shoulder moved behind the blur. I blamed steam. There was no steam. At 2:43 a.m., a cold handprint grew on my side of the glass. 5 perfect ovals, wet from nothing. When I touched it, 5 smaller prints pressed from the other side to meet mine, as if a child were matching me through the pain. Next night, I propped the door open. Mid-shower, it closed itself with a soft click. The frosting cleared from the inside out like a palm wiping a window, and an outline of a face appeared, cheekbone, open mouth, moving slower than breath. I killed the water. The face stayed 5 seconds after silence, then slid down, leaving a greasy trail. Third night I filmed. At 3:09 a.m., the video shows the door easing shut on its own. 3 even knocks from inside. When I opened it, condensation footprints led from the shower to the wall and disappeared halfway up the tile. By the 4th night, the glass was breathing, fog in, fog out. The handle turned left, right, then rested perfectly centered, quivering like a pulse. I said, "You can stop now." Letters cleared backward so I could read them. Stay in. Blackout hit. Everything went dark. A soft dragging like a towel pulled across skin. Curtain rings squealed, one by one. My phone lit itself, camera pointed at the doorway. For half a second before it crashed, it showed me in bed, and another me behind the frosted door, palm flat, head tilted, watching. The door pushed inward, though I'd locked it. The gap was black, not darkness, black, and 2 faint yellow points pulsed inside it like awareness. Cold flooded the room. The mattress bowed as if someone kneeled beside me. Fingers tested my throat, gentle, measuring. My own voice whispered through the keyhole. "Let me in. I'm freezing." Every light in the house flashed on for a breath, and in each doorway stood my reflection, 5 of me, each smile wider than mine could get. I woke at dawn barefoot on the porch, the inside knob locked. On the fogged window behind it, 1 clear handprint low, and 3:09 burned like an afterimage in the mirror. I moved out that day. I still shower with the curtain open. Some nights, the steam makes a second mouth beside mine that breathes in when I breathe out. If I stare too long, the glass clears around a face that isn't where I am. If you want her to take the door, look for you. They say the dead can travel anywhere light can't. So when the power dies, they follow the dark. From a cabin's single lamp to the woods that never stopped listening. I took a caretaker gig at a hunting cabin near Pine Hollow. Nights were dead quiet until the whistling started. 3 notes from the Treeline, patient as a person calling a friend. Second night it copied me. I whistled while locking the shed. It answered a beat later, same pitch. Third night it knew my humming from the stove and played it back better than I did. Snow came, I sat on the porch with a lantern to prove it was wind. No wind. The whistle slipped behind the cabin. I walked around. Fresh snow. No prints. When I turned back, a wet circle had appeared on a pine trunk like someone had pressed their mouth to the bark. At 12:31 a.m. it moved closer. Not through the world, but through me. 3 notes right at my ear. My breath fogging white. The lantern flame bowing toward the sound like it wanted to follow. I took 1 step, and the lantern light stretched forward as if a tall shape were blocking it. In the snow behind that stretch, a single bare footprint, not mine, deep. Toes splayed. The ball of the foot too long. The next night I tried my grandpa's trick, whistled 2 notes no one knows, and waited. The reply landed perfect and added a 3rd I'd never taught it. The tree line stayed empty. The snow remained untouched until I looked away. When I looked back, a trail of wet prints had appeared across the porch slats, leading right to my boot toes and stopping there like a person who respects personal space. Until you don't. Inside, I latched the door. A second latch I've never had fell into place above it. Old iron, making a sound I've only heard on antique trunks. The wind died. The cabin exhaled. 3 notes came from the chimney, and soot snowed inside onto the hearth in the shape of 2 footprints pointed toward me. At 12:44 a.m., the lantern went tall as if someone stood over it. A shadow crossed the plank floor with no body to cast it, and the whistle drifted from every wall at once. I covered my ears. It shifted into my skull, clearer there. When I uncovered them, the cabin's little window showed a face in the glass, not pressed, just waiting. Frost growing around it, not on it. At dawn, I found a line carved into the doorframe at the height of my mouth, scored smooth as if a lip had drawn it. Outside, that same single bare print had melted deeper into ice like something warm kept returning to it through the night. I left the key under a rock and walked to the road without whistling. Sometimes in town, a kettle sings 3 notes I never taught it, and the sound comes from behind me even when the stove is in front. When you leave the forest, you think you're safe, but the quiet doesn't end at the tree line. It just hides behind walls, and sometimes it checks in under a different name. Some motels have no vacancy because something else already took them.
Room. I checked into a motor court outside Laramie. Single story, doors to the lot, generator banging after the blackout. Room smelled of cleaner and wet carpet. First knock came at 12:07 a.m., 3 soft taps at knee height. Peephole showed empty parking space, snow blowing sideways. The glow of my taillights reflected on the room window across the lot. I opened to prove a point. No one. But in the thin dust on the sill, a small finger trail drew a curve and stopped. Second knock at 12:19, same rhythm. When I looked, the curtain across the room moved even though the heater was off. Something traced along the fabric from the bottom up, as if a hand were sliding inside the wall. I laid towels across the door gap. Third knock at 12:31 came from the bathroom door frame. The mirror had a palm print, low, smaller than mine, in moisture that shouldn't exist. When I wiped it, a new print formed a little higher, fingertips dragging down in 5 parallel lines. At 1:03, the bed dipped like someone sat, light as a child trying not to wake you. The dip slid up to my shoulder and stopped. I said, "No," out loud. The bedside lamp flickered and stayed dark. On the TV, a dead input showed a room like mine, but not mine. My door stood open in the picture, winter blowing in. Something tall stood in the doorway, head brushing the frame.
Eyes, not eyes, just glow at a height that made my stomach fall. I ran to the chain and set it. When I looked back at the TV, the tall shape had moved next to the bed on the screen. Same bedspread, same stain, and was bending until its head matched my height lying down. My chest went cold. In the carpet by my nightstand, wet shoe prints I didn't make darkened the fibers, leading from the bathroom to the bed and stopping at the spot where the mattress caved. At 1:10, the generator hiccuped. For a second, the room went fully black. In that second, something exhaled against my teeth, and I tasted copper and old dust, like air from an attic closed 100 years. When the light came back, the peephole was dark from the outside, as if an eye were pressed against it, then cleared, leaving a ring of moisture that slid down the door like a tear. I left at 5 a.m. without the deposit. In daylight, the snow on my hood had 2 handprints overlapping, one small, one too large, and the glass above the bed held the fogged outline of a tall head that didn't match any person staying there. Sometimes now, highway glare hits my windshield just right, and a shape that's a little taller than a man leans forward in the reflection, eyes pale, mouth open, as if about to knock. Hospitals pretend they understand death. They label it, chart it, schedule it for removal. But the ones who clean the halls after midnight know better. They know the air on those floors still remembers every breath that was never exhaled. I'm a CNA. Night float at a small hospital near the river. Blackout rolled the city. Our floor ran on emergency strips and battery hum. The halls felt like after hours in a museum, still watched. At 3:11 a.m., I walked past 412 and saw the sheet on the empty bed lift and settle like someone exhaled underneath it. I told myself, air return. The vent was off. The clock in 412 had stopped at 3:11, even though every other clock on the floor glowed 3:12. A call light chimed from 4:16. No patient assigned. The cord lay neatly on the mattress, button facing up. When I stepped in, the wheelchair rolled 2 inches on its own, wheels whispering. My chest went hot, then cold. I said, "Someone's here," because speaking makes it manageable. The curtain hooks in 414 slid. When I looked, that room's privacy glass held a face-shaped clear patch in the fogging that grew as I stood there. I found shoe prints in saline at the nurse's station, wet soles too narrow for any of our staff, leading to the supply closet and stopping at the wall. Inside the closet, boxes were shifted, an open space the size of a person crouching. At 3:17, the oxygen flow meter in 410 clicked on by itself. The green ball rose, steadied at 2 liters. The tubing end was capped. The cap pulsed like a throat swallowing. My radio whispered a word in a voice too close to mine. Closer. And I realized I was already stepping in. I felt fingers press my forearm, light, testing, one by one, like a small hand learning where bones are. 5 oval blushes rose in a curve, then darkened into a handprint that was not a child's, and not an adult's. Proportions off, thumb low. I backed into the hall. All the room monitors, black in blackout, flashed 000, then 311 in unison. In the wide window at the end of the corridor, my reflection lifted its hand before I did. The floor got colder under my shoes as if something heavy stood close. I finished charting with shaking hands and told the dawn nurse I might be sick. When I washed before leaving, the soap smell turned metallic, like blood under mint. On the paper towel, letters appeared as the fibers darkened. Stay. They blurred as I watched, like breath drying them. I still do nights. I keep my sleeves down. When I pass 412, the sheet sometimes lifts to a shape it remembers, and stays that way until I say out loud, "No one's there," and it reluctantly sinks, as if respecting hospital policy. And when you finally escape the building thinking you've outrun the dark, you find it waiting on the road. Because the road doesn't end. It just keeps carrying what you tried to leave behind. I drive deliveries between Pueblo and Trinidad. Storm took the grid. Highway went black but for my beams. At 2:44 a.m. my dash flickered and stuck on 244. I pulled onto a dirt turnout to breathe and let the hail pass. Something knocked from under the truck, 3 dull thuds dead center of the bed. I killed the engine, stepped out, crouched. Dust under the axle showed 2 bare footprints side by side, as if someone had been standing beneath me facing up. Back in the cab, condensation bloomed on the inside of the passenger window in the shape of a face pressed against glass. It cleared a circle where a mouth would be, then fogged again like a person saying a word too soft to hear. I wiped it. A new face immediately formed lower, as if someone shorter took their turn. In the mirror, the tree line had a hole in the dark, darker than dark, tall, with 2 pale points where eyes could be. When my beams washed over it, the points didn't flare. They absorbed the light. I locked the doors. The rear latch clicked open anyway. My dome light stayed off. In the dust on my tailgate, 5 long parallel lines dragged down as if fingers were testing the weight of the metal. At 2:44 still, the seatbelt tightened across my chest with no motor sound. Snug, then tighter again. I gasped, clawed it loose. The belt retracted on its own and held where I'd left it like a hand waiting on my shoulder. I drove to a tiny roadside motel lit by one buzzing sign. In the room, the bedskirt was coated with thin dust. Footprints appeared one by one as I watched, small, then larger, circling the bed and stopping by the bathroom door. The mirror inside fogged, then wrote, "Behind, backward," as if for me to read from the room. I sat in the tub with the curtain open until morning and told myself it was exhaustion. In daylight, the truck hood had oily handprints in a perfect semicircle lower than I'd ever reach, and the dash still read 244, until I started the engine and looked away. I don't stop on turnouts now. I keep driving through storms. Sometimes the seatbelt cinches once, gently, like a reminder, and my passenger window fogs in the shape of a face that waits for me to breathe out so it can breathe in. Quiet, reflective, almost whispered. Maybe ghosts aren't strangers at all. Maybe they're the echo of everything we didn't face, following us home, waiting for a night quiet enough to speak. If you ever feel a breath that isn't yours, or see eyes shining where light can't reach, don't ask who it is. Ask what part of you finally answered back. This doesn't end here. Something else is already happening somewhere else.